Start your day with Quaker Protein Instant Oatmeal. The instant oatmeal ready to help you tackle whatever your day brings. Like wrangling your toddler into their car seat. That was fun. Coaching your 6th graders soccer team. Go girls! And carrying all the groceries in one trip. Whew. Try Quaker Protein Instant Oatmeal, granola, and bars. Great taste and a good source of protein. Quaker, bring out the good.
Reunited at long last. The Minor League Baseball podcast is back in full force as we welcome you into this week's episode of the Show Before the Show, the official podcast of Minor League Baseball. My name is Tyler Mon, Benjamin Hill, and Sam Dykstra, all three of us together. Did we only have 1 week where we weren't all actually talking, or did we have 2? What year is it?
I think we only had the one. I think there was only the one time where we had to record separate segments. And then I threatened to do that again this week.
Yeah, I do want to point out. I want to narrate this. So Ben and I were supposed to record today, and Ben said that he was ready to drop all of the things that he had learned in a Sam Dykstra expose about shocking details.
I just have a series of ongoing investigations, various narrative threads, so I can always,
as we should,
when we have a podcast without Sam, I can take a deeper dive into one of the many sordid paths that lead to
the Sam Dykstra we know today.
Yeah, various tales of deviancy. Yeah.
Ben blew the lid off of Sam's days as the Times Square Mickey Mouse. And we have other stories. But when Ben said that, Sam, who at first was like, I got a lot going on, I can't record with you. All of a sudden, Sam had availability. So here he is to monitor the truth, the journalistic endeavor that Ben has been pursuing over these many years. A little unsettling, to say the least.
I just imagine other podcasts when a host takes a week off or is doing something that is required of their job, the other hosts are trying to actively cancel that host. Like, imagine Ira Glass being like, oh no, somebody else, please host This American Life. And they're like, oh, our first investigation this week, Ira Glass.
Ira Glass himself.
Yeah, I mean, it's a natural impulse.
Exactly, Sam.
You want to take down your own first and then move on to the larger world.
Who watches the watchers, right?
Exactly.
Right. So anyway, you got to wait until we can expose Sam on some future episode of the Show Before the Show podcast. No, we're so glad that Sammy is here. And for this week's episode, we thank you. We're so happy that you are here as well, hanging out with us on the latest edition of the Show Before the Show podcast. Really our final one before the start of baseball season, full on. Major League Opening Day is a week from tomorrow. We are recording this on what I'm being told is Thursday, March 19th. And we're getting there, man. We're closing in on the start of the minor league season the week after. So it's all ramping up for this 2026 campaign. And wherever you found us, you can, of course, get in touch with this podcast at milb.com. And let's just dive right in, fellas. Sam Dykstra is in Florida. Spring Breakout rosters have been announced. Spring Breakout games kicking off. Sam, for those who are coming into the Spring Breakout game and don't necessarily know the full context, give us the breakdown of Spring Breakout and then what this 2026 edition looks like.
Yeah, it's a good way of putting it, Tyler. The Spring Breakout is a series that started in 2024. This is the 3rd edition of Spring Breakout. And the whole idea was to take all the prospect action that's happening on the backfields, especially this time of year. It's a little bit later this year because of the World Baseball Classic, pushed the calendar back. But normally you get, where I live in spring is on the backfields to see prospect versus prospect. Now let's put that in the main stadium. And by now, I mean over the last 3 years, they've tried to make a specific game that is the best prospects from one organization against the best prospects from another organization. Now, it's spring training. There's going to be some times where guys are either competing for major league jobs, so they're over in major league camp or wherever the major league game is, or they're injured, or if they're pitchers, they're not lined up perfectly. But for the most part, you're trying to get most of your top 30 prospects into this game and showcase what the next generation of stars for your farm system is. Um, and we've gotten some great moments over the years in spring breakout games. The one that immediately comes to mind is Paul Skeens striking out Jackson Holliday, two of the best prospects in baseball at that time. And that was Paul Skeens' first spring training. So that was, a lot of people getting to see him on the mound for an extended period of time. And he got to strut off the mound a little bit. You could tell he cared about that strikeout against Jackson Holliday. Even Livy Dunn was posting about like, oh, Paul is pitching in this game, and she was just like, oh, he struck out that guy. That guy's really good. Like it meant something to pitch in that game, and I think the longer spring breakout becomes a thing, the bigger deal it is for players to play in it. The bigger deal it is for organizations to send their best players there. I am actually here in Cardinals camp today. This game will happen after, or it'll happen before the podcast comes out. So I won't preview it too hard, but it's the Cardinals versus the Nationals. And the Cardinals and Nationals have done a really good job these last few months acquiring prospect talent. They've been making trades at the major league level. They're not going to be as competitive up there, but they are trying to build deep and talented farm systems. And we're going to get to see it today. Liam Doyle, first round pick for the Cardinals, is starting for St. Louis. JJ Weatherholt, even though he is competing for a major league job, is going to be on the breakout side today. We'll see where he's batting and where he's playing. I checked in with him yesterday, and he was like, "I'm not sure. They haven't told me yet. So maybe it's shortstop, maybe it's second base, maybe it's third base." But the fact that he's playing in this game would not shock me at all if he goes like 3 for 4 with 2 doubles after he's gotten so much Grapefruit League time. So it's just really, really exciting to get this going this week. It's over the next 4 days: Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and we're going to see some prime matchups and some really deep rosters across both Florida and Arizona.
Of those rosters, there are obviously groups that are more exciting than others. I mean, they're all exciting from a prospect standpoint, but some teams, some organizations put together groups you're just like, goodness gracious, this team could probably compete at the major league level. You've got a piece up on some of the most intriguing squads for spring breakout. Who stands out?
Yeah, it starts with the Seattle Mariners. I mean, they have 6 top 100 prospects. All 6 of them are going to be in this game, and it's going to be a really well-balanced lineup, assuming the top 100 guys start. Colt Emerson is a hit tool first guy. Lazaro Montes is a power first guy. Michael Arroyo, who, is coming off the WBC with Colombia. Interesting mix there at second base. Maybe some outfield time for him. Johnny Farmello, extremely quick. He's had some injuries in the past. Hopefully he can stay healthy for this full season. But then what's most intriguing for me is on the pitching side, because both Cade Anderson, who was the 3rd overall pick last year and a star for LSU in the College World Series, is going to pitch in this game. Ryan Sloan, a 20-year-old with 4 really good pitches in his fastball, sweeper, cutter, and changeup, is also going to pitch in this game. So I don't know, as of today, the game's going to happen on March 20th, which is Friday, the day this comes out. I don't know if Anderson's starting. I don't know if Sloan's starting, but the fact of one relieving the other, that's going to be a really difficult matchup for the Brewers, who are going up against the Seattle Mariners. And of course, the Brewers have, one of my favorite prospects in baseball, the number 3 prospect in baseball, Jesus Made. They're going to be really deep on the infield. Luis Pena is on that roster as well. Jet Williams, who was acquired in the Freddie Peralta deal with the Mets. He had a quad injury earlier in spring, so he hasn't shown out as much on the major league side as you would have hoped. But when he has played in games, he's been a real spark plug, and he has something to prove here in his second organization, as he's likely headed to AAA Nashville. The Brewers actually have 2 games. They have one on Friday and one on Sunday. The one on Sunday is against the A's, which has Leo DeVries, who's been really, really good this spring. I think they got him 47 plate appearances before he was reassigned to minor league camp. And he was batting 400, over 400 in that time, with 3 homers and 3 doubles. So Leo DeVries versus Jesus Made, assuming that Made is going to play both games, and it sounds like he will. Those are 2 signings from the 2024 international signing class. 2 of the best talents from that. Now, DeVries was number 1 at the time of signing, and we saw how that went. Padres got really aggressive with him, pushed him to stateside ball, pushed him to full season ball, and then traded him for Mason Miller. Made has a little bit more traditional, but not really, because he started in the DSL, full year there, then climbed 3 levels last year in his age 18 season, and has pipped DeVries. Now, Made's number 3, DeVries is number 4. It's going to be an interesting measuring stick. It's not going to be the end all be all. Jim Callis was joking on the MLB Pipeline podcast that like whoever does better that game is going to be the number 1 overall prospect for us at midseason. I wish there were stakes like that. That would be very funny, but It's just going to be an interesting matchup, and I really enjoy that happening. The Brewers are the number 3 team. The number 2 team on my list, and I'll cut it after this. People can go read the piece, but is the Los Angeles Dodgers. Really interesting to see how they're going to line up their outfield because Josue De Paula, Zaire Hope, Eduardo Quintaro, and Mike Sirota are all top 100 prospects, all within our top 60, actually. And they're all outfielders. Now, obviously, one of those guys can DH, but then they have some really interesting outfielders below that in Charles Davelin, who was a 41st overall pick last year, James Tibbs III, who they got from the Red Sox in the Dustin May trade. He really turned things around after that deal. And then Kendall George stole 100 bases. And he's maybe the 7th best outfield prospect in this system. Like you would want him in the game at some point beyond just being a pinch runner. So I'm really interested to see how the Dodgers are going to go about that. They face the White Sox in the Battle of Camelback Ranch on March 21st, so that'll be Saturday at 5:30 Eastern.
That's a much lesser known Civil War battle in Arizona, the Battle of Camelback Ranch.
Yeah, right. Away from the battles of Tennessee and Virginia.
Was the westernmost expanse.
Yeah, between the Dodgers and White Sox, that's going to be really interesting because again, like the Dodgers right now are in a place where they have a deep farm system. They don't need one, but they have one anyways because they're really good at developing. And the White Sox absolutely need a deep farm system. And they started to see some of those guys come up last year. There are some interesting talents in there. Braden Montgomery, Billy Carlson, their first round pick from last year. This is his first spring training, but I think he could absolutely be the best defender in this year's spring breakout already. And then Sam Antonacci, who I believe is on the roster, obviously showed out for Team Italy in the World Baseball Classic. So his name is on the tip of a lot of people's tongues across baseball. Is another showcase event for him. So that'll be really fun. White Sox versus Dodgers on March 21st, which is Saturday at 5:30 Eastern, 2:30 Pacific/Arizona.
All right, Sam. Anything else with Spring Breakout this year that people should be aware of? I mean, obviously, this is an event that continues to grow and evolve and change, and it will in the coming years. But anything else that you're like, if people are showing up for these games, here's what you need to know.
Yeah, I mean, Connor Griffin, we haven't said his name yet, so might as well get it out of the way now. He is playing for Pittsburgh. He was one of those examples, right? Of like, he's competing for a major league job. It's been one of the discussions of spring. Does he make the Pirates out of spring? But I think the Pirates acknowledge, and he's also spoken about this, his excitement for playing in this event, that this is an opportunity to showcase Connor Griffin. It's going to be a game against the Tigers, against Max Clark. Kevin McGonigal's not on the roster, but Max Clark is on MLB Network. And after Connor Griffin has spent all spring competing with major league hopefuls and Grapefruit League play, this is a true prospect game. He could show why he's head and shoulders above everybody else. I mean, he's capable of hitting a 425-foot moonshot, right? Or putting the ball in a gap, speeding to third, or getting on and stealing second. Like, playing a really, really good shortstop. There's so many things he can do in this game that you're going to want to tune it in if you can. The other thing I will say is that, and check MLB Pipeline for more details on this, all games are televised in some way. There are a lot of games that will be on MLB Network. There will be a lot of games that will be available for streaming on MLB.com. There will be games that local broadcasts are doing. But this is like the most expansive television or viewing experience so far in Spring Breakout because I think everybody acknowledges this is a thing people want to see. I know Cardinals fans getting ready for this event. I think they're more excited for this game than they are maybe any other Grapefruit League game that's been played this spring because of the emphasis on the farm. So, it's really exciting to see it build momentum. And then next year, it's already been announced it's going to be a tournament. Details to come on what exactly that's going to look like and how that's going to exactly set itself up. But that's what everybody's talking about here too, is like, hey, next year's going to count.
Yeah.
And you got to prepare for multiple games, and there's pride on the line, not just one game. You're trying to win your region. That's probably how it's going to be. There's going to be a winner in Arizona and a winner in Florida. Again, that's not decided yet, but that's how it would seem it's going. And when you're playing competitive games, as we've seen in the WBC, even if the regular season's not starting yet, these things get really competitive and really fun to watch. So everybody's looking forward to 2027. But in the meantime, a lot of exciting matchups, a lot of exciting prospects in the next 4 days.
Pretty great stuff from Sam Dykstra, who is on location in the Grapefruit League in Florida. All right, Sam, I know you've had a bajillion interviews over the last couple of weeks, but we are lucky enough to get one of those for this week's episode of the show before the show. Tee it up for us.
Yeah, this is somebody who actually showed out in the first spring breakout 2 years ago in 2024. Joshua Báez hit, I want to say it was the longest measured by StatCast that year. I believe he might be somebody we've already had on the show now that I think about it. But this is a good opportunity to circle back with him if we have. He was a second round pick out of Massachusetts in 2021. And he's a massive human being, right? He stands 6'3", 220 pounds. There's always been a lot of power in the bat for Joshua Baez, but he's also struck out a lot of the time uh, earlier in his career. At one point, he even got sent back to Palm Beach to work things out and try to correct the contact issues. And then last year just absolutely took off, mostly at Double A Springfield, but finished with a 287, 384, 500 line, 20 homers, and 54 steals. Got to a point where only he and Connor Griffin were the only 2050 players in minor league baseball last year. Now, I think it's more average speed. I think he's picking his spots. We're going to talk about that in the interview. But this is somebody who is really hitting his potential here in a Cardinal system that has been remade. It's a new front office. It was a new player development group last year. His swing, it used to be pretty janky and a lot of moving parts. Now it's much more streamlined, straight to the ball in the box. He's become a really, really exciting player, and he's probably heading to AAA Memphis to start this year. And if he performs at all like he did in 2025, we're going to see Joshua Báez pretty quickly with the Cardinals in 2026. So here's my conversation with him from Jupiter, Florida.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, just to get it going. I mean, last year was such a breakout year for you, the way you were able to cut down on the strikeouts and really allow your power to play. What do you feel like was the key to taking off in 2025?
Yeah, the key was just, having that confidence, just knowing, that I could play, and just working off 2024, finishing on a high note down here in Palm Beach. We did some adjustments, and I just wanted to carry it over.
What were the biggest adjustments you made?
Just trying to keep it simple, have a simple approach, just having an approach for every single at bat and not going in blank. Just working in the cage with my strengths while keeping my weaknesses there, but not, focusing too much on them, trying to key on what I do best.
Yeah, I'm looking at your stances from year to year. You just look so much more streamlined. Was that a big focus, was kind of eliminating some of the noise in your swing?
Yeah, just having a step with the stride, and then just thinking more direct to the ball. It might seem like I'm trying to hit for power, but I'm really just trying to look for the contact, and the balls are going to come up firm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you get added to the 40-man. How much was that even on your mind going into last year?
It wasn't on my mind at all. I knew that it was an important season, so I just kind of took it day by day. I felt like that was the best way for me, to not really think about the big picture, just trying to win the day, and that's what came to a really good season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the Cardinals at one point took you back here to work with you on the development list. What was that like going through that, and how did that make you a better hitter?
Yeah, at first it was tough, just hearing that, but then I soaked it in and I came down to work, and we got in the cage for 2 weeks and made some adjustments, and we took it to the game, and we finished strong, and then just continued it in the off season. And then just came out hot, positive, and just working every day.
When did it feel like everything really clicked for you then?
I feel like it was a building process. April and early May, it was mostly singles, trying to get my bat in there, and then power started to click in slowly, and then it just kind of clicked, and it just carried on. Came back away, and then I kind of got it back quicker. So the adjustments were made quicker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're somebody who, given your size, you can generate really loud exit velocities. Is that something you look at afterwards to see, check in how you're doing?
No, I don't check out exit velocities. Just looking for a good posture. If my body is turning well and into the baseball, then good things typically happen.
Yeah, and the player development staff has changed in the last year. Last year was a different group. How did you feel like it worked for you, and what did they unlock in you?
Yeah, I feel like they just wanted to work with what I have, not really trying to, give me random drills or anything, like more individual process for me. And I feel like that was kind of like the key, trying to work with how I move, not exactly with how others or like what worked for others. So like that was for me, and it just clicked.
Yeah, and what do you feel like works best for you in terms of how you move? Like, how would you describe how you move?
Yeah, just trying to keep things simple in the cage, not really overthinking too much, having a good approach, and being ready to hit.
Yeah, and how did this offseason change the fact that you were on the 40-man roster, like knowing that you were going to be a big league camp?
It didn't change. I continued to work every single day, had a plan, just going right after every single day. Mobility, speed, flexibility, power, arm care. So, like I just continue to do everything that I do, and just came to big leagues, just trying to be prepared and just to show what I have.
Was it even on your mind? I mean, the fact that you are technically on the roster, potentially winning a major league job?
Not at all. I just wanted just to come out here and just be myself. Those are things that I can't control, so just trying to stay within.
Yeah, and going to AAA Memphis for the first time. What are your expectations of that level?
Yeah, just got to go over there, just do my thing. Just know how the level is a new level for me. So just going over there confident, but knowing that it's going to be a challenge, and the goal is the big leagues.
What have the Cardinals done to prepare you for what it's going to be like there? I mean, obviously getting ABS challenge there is going to be a big adjustment, something that could work in your favor, but what else have they done to prepare you for it?
Well, so the ABS, I had it in low A.
Oh,
so
sure.
Yeah. So like I'm similar with that. And like just going out there, just trying to have fun, know how the level is, compete, and just ball.
Yeah, you're somebody who has pretty good arm strength, fits especially well in right field. How has that developed for you?
Yeah, now they're bouncing me in the corners, left and right, and center as well. So like just trying to cover all three. So like just so I can have that there available, and then just going where I'm told.
Where do you feel most comfortable of those three?
I've been in right more, but like being in left and center, it's fine. So like I'm just trying to be comfortable just wherever I'm just asked to be.
Yeah, and over your time in the Cardinals system, it's grown into what's basically a youth movement now. You're seeing guys like JJ and Mason Wynn and everybody on the major league side. How has that changed, and what has that trickle down effect been like for you guys on the minor league side, knowing you could win a job?
Yeah, it's just basically that we're all on the same boat. Not really, but kind of. We're all young, so like we're just trying just to be together, commingle, have fun, get to know each other, and know that there is a shot and an opportunity. So just knowing that it's not like some other teams where like there's older guys, Hall of Famers, where we're all kind of like in like the same age group. So like we're just pulling for like each other and just trying to have fun.
Yeah, and you're somebody who stole a lot of bases last year. What is your, I don't want to say philosophy, but strategy on the? Are you always looking to run, or are you picking your spots? How do you?
Yeah, so I study pitches. I look for patterns and just like what they tend to do. And I just, when they give me a shot, I take it. I work a lot on my jumps, so like just trying to beat the pitcher, not necessarily the catcher. And just being sneaky with it. Yeah, like they think that I'm not gonna run, so like I kind of just pick my spots and I take on good counts.
Yeah, and overall in your game, how would you compare your confidence now to where it was a year ago?
Yeah, I feel like it's been a difference changer. Like just knowing, that I belong here. Early on, like in my career, like I kind of like stepped away from that. And now like I'm just trying just to be the best version of myself and just have fun.
This episode is brought to you by Cologuard. Do you know what's really scary? Not screening for colon cancer when you turn 45. The Cologuard test is non-invasive, requires no special prep or time off work, and ships right to your door. In just 3 simple steps, Cologuard takes the scare out of colon cancer screening. If you're 45 or older and at average risk, ask your healthcare provider about the Cologuard test. Cologuard is available by prescription only. Learn more or request a prescription today at Cologuard.com/screen.
Great stuff from Sam, who could not get off of this podcast quicker we got done with his segment. And he was like, "Can we record the end? Because I gotta go work," quote unquote. So now we dive into the sordid details of Samuel C. Dykstra. No, I'm kidding. Ben's Biz Banter on this week's episode of the show before the show is presented by Circle K, the official convenience store of minor league baseball. As the world's busiest man come baseball season is closing in on the kickoff to the 2026 campaign, and that is our very own Benjamin Hill. Ben, the last couple weeks before opening day has to be just like a crazy sprint for you because you've probably got a ton of stuff that you're just trying to finish off from, 2025 things that have been rolling out, new identities and everything else. But how you feeling going down the barrel toward opening night?
I'm feeling okay. I'll be honest.
Right?
I'm not feeling great, but if I also interrogate myself, I'm almost never feeling great this time of year.
Yeah.
I like the season, but the lead up to it and what am I doing and how are things changing and how are things staying the same and how do I balance it with, my life outside of work and how long have I been doing this? Am I still good at it? I don't know if I'm still good at it. Does anyone like it? I don't think anyone likes it. What am I doing? What am I not doing? It's a kind of tough time for me mentally, honestly. But that's the honest answer. I should have just said, I'm psyched for opening day 2026. This is the official podcast of minor league baseball. Everything is great all the time. And look, we love what we do. That's just the reality. So, a lot, and I think part of my leading up to the season angst is a lot of what I'm doing is kind of necessary work, but I feel like shouldn't I be doing something like new and vital to get ready for the season? But it's like we've got 5 new ballparks, trying to write at least preliminary ballpark guides for each of the 5 new ballparks so we can have that as a package for each individual ballpark guide as well as a story that says here are the 5 new ballparks. In the process of going through every team's promo schedule. I mean, I have coworkers who are more on the administrative side of minor league baseball who have a lot of great spreadsheets, but I do find that for what I do, to have a day-by-day sense of what I want to pay attention to, I kind of need to sift through it myself. So on one hand, it's like, nice, that's a little busy work. But on the other, I'm like, the season's starting, and what am I do? Slogging through the Biloxi Shuckers promo schedule right now? Isn't there something else I should be doing? But it's all, it's all part of the process, all part of the slog. And of course, one of the bigger issues is what kind of trips am I going on this year? And how am I going to schedule them? I have probably 12 or 13 ideas. Clearly, I'm not doing all of those, but actually getting them slotted in, locked in, is tough, especially. Yeah, it was easier to do this job when I was single, for one, because I only had to think about myself. Here's to unrestrained narcissism for basically the entire decade of my 30s. But it's a little trickier now to balance family life, shifting work priorities, whatever. We all get older. We figure it out.
I get it, man. Working in sports makes it a different type of structure and challenge and all that. And as we get closer to the start of the season, it is sort of that freak out of oh man, now we have just 7 straight months of doing this on a regular basis.
Yeah. So what I'm saying, I have a unique job, but whatever. Yeah. What I'm saying is very common. Something you have felt, something that people in front offices across the country are feeling right now. Something that teachers and people in education can relate to as regards the start of another school year, et cetera, et cetera. There's always going to be a lot of anxiety, and it's always best to get through the lead up to it and the initial here it goes again, and then kind of get your feet under you, and then it is what it is. Sometimes a season is awesome. Sometimes it's not so great. And not to be cliche about it, but sometimes I look at it like sports, Yeah. There were things I was frustrated about last season, but I'm like, well, you're a veteran. You've been doing this a long time. This is a down year. And it still had a lot of highlights, and it's not like it was a failure. And that's okay. That was the year. Now you have another year. Then the voice in my head is like, yeah, you look at it as a down year because you're on the decline and you can't do it anymore. Why don't you retire to spend more time with your family?
Oh man, these are the existential things that we go through. All of you think like, these guys, they're just chatting about baseball. No, this, especially me and Ben. I don't think Sam has any. I think he's incubated the perfect mental state of just being the most lovable dude on earth, whereas Ben and I are just tortured souls trying to figure out how we make an impact before we shuffle off this mortal coil and into the void of the unknown where no one remembers us ever.
Yeah, 100%. Sam, meanwhile, is just like well balanced,
He's just
manages
the
his time
best dude.
well.
Yeah,
Yeah, knows
yeah.
how to do more things than I do.
Everybody loves
And
him.
yeah,
He's so
that's
great.
why he's the worst. Like, truly, not a person you want to be around. He's
You
too
ever find yourself
competent.
near Sam Dykstra and you go over and he makes you feel better about your life because he's the
Yeah,
best? You
yeah,
don't
get
need
out of
that.
here. I want to see Sam failing, just only nothing mean spirited, but just to make me feel better about myself.
Nobody can continue getting away with being that perfect forever.
Yeah,
Sam.
exactly.
God, we
Eh,
love him so
Need a
much.
little fall from grace, Sam.
All right, dude. Well, let's dive into. We have 7 new identities for Copa de la Diversión here in the 2026 season. Some of them a little bit more, deep cut than others, and there are some really really good ones. Run us through them, and then I feel like we should each pick our favorite, but it might just be the same favorite because there's one that just blows me away.
All right, good. Well, I don't know which one that is, so we'll find out. And Tyler, jump in with the Spanish pronunciation at any time, because when
Yeah,
we
I'll
talk
do my
about Copa,
best.
I mean, you're coming back from the World Baseball Classic. Don't leave me hanging. You are better
You
than
want me to
that.
read through them? You want me to see if I can nail them all?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
that's
Okay.
better. Let's go
Here's what
with
we
you.
have in 2026. We have 7 new identities, and we kick things off with the Charlotte Knights, who are the Guacamayas de Charlotte. Then the Columbus Clingstones, who are the Refrescos de Fuente, which is a very nice one, and a lovely little smiling logo there. The El Paso Matachines for the El Paso Chihuahuas. Fayetteville, the Woodpeckers this year will be the Frijoles Saltarines, which is an interesting logo look. The Hill City Howlers, formerly known as the Lynchburg Hillcats. The Luchadores Voladores, the Hill City Luchadores, which is, a theme Mexican wrestling that has been uh, adopted by several teams in different ways. The Hub City Spartanburgers are the Gusanos de Mezcal del Berg for Spartanburg. The Northwest Arkansas Naturals, Las Bicicletas del Noreste de Arkansas. They've got like a gorilla riding a bicycle that has tall handlebars. That's my breakdown of that. So yeah, let's and we obviously will direct you to MILB.com, MLB.com/MILB, where you can look at all the logos and the hats and everything else. But Ben, your thoughts on these?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's like two categories. One that just takes something about the city and puts it into Spanish. I'd say like Columbus Clingstones, Refrescos de Fuente. Columbus, Georgia is the fountain city. There are little fountains all around the city, decorative fountains. And this is Spanish for soft drinks, for fountain soft drinks, Refrescos de Fuente. So it's a celebration of the team's connection to the actual fountains and soda culture. I think it's a really cool looking identity. If you like a goofy swinging fountain soda, but that one, it's a little harder to see like how it directly relates to the Hispanic community. And I like ones that you learn a little bit more about the Hispanic community um, to learn that. And so I like El Paso for that reason. They had variations on a theme the last couple years. Their previous Copa identity was margaritas,
Right.
which everyone loves a margarita, and they had a story about how it was invented, quote unquote, invented at a bar in Juarez, which is, literally right next to El Paso with the border between the US and America in between. I forget the name of it. I actually, when I was in El Paso last for the minor league baseball promo seminar in 2019, I actually walked into Juarez and walked to that bar because I wanted to get a margarita at the place where a margarita was invented. And the bar itself kind of just felt like a more or less normal sports bar, but still a good experience. Anyway, now El Paso has gone to the Matachines, and Yeah, it's not something I know much about, but you have this like tribal dancer looking logo with a animal skull for a head. So, there's a lot you can dive into with this. As our colleague Josh Jackson wrote, they tap into a southwestern U.S., northern Mexico tradition that blends indigenous Spanish and Mexican influences, and that is the matatine. Dancers known for elaborate headdresses and ayayotes, Aztec percussion instruments worn on the ankles or wrists. So there's a lot going on there. And if the Chihuahuas, which I very much imagine they will, bring that identity to life with the actual, people in those costumes, the dances, bring the culture to the ballpark. And again, there's no reason to think they shouldn't. They're the El Paso Chihuahuas. They play literally on the border with Mexico. And so I feel like there's a lot of literal crossover appeal in El Paso for something like this.
That was my top one. And man, they just nailed it. The logos are so good. The color scheme is amazing. If you've ever gotten a chance to go to, a powwow or an indigenous ceremony in Denver, we're lucky to have an annual powwow festival that comes through every year that I remember going to a lot when I was a kid, and watching those ceremonial dances and being exposed to, yeah, like how those percussion instruments are used and the different attire, the headdresses, the clothing, the colors in this are just so beautifully done. And one of the things that I really like this year is that Copa hats have bill adornments. There are different colored patterns and stitching on the bills of the caps this year. And the Matachines, they just nailed it, man. It is such a good look. This may be the season which I finally make a road trip down to El Paso. My wife is from Texas originally. We drive to and from Texas to go see her family. This might be the year that I'm like, can we swing through El Paso so I can go see a Chihuahuas game and meet Ted Haggerty in person and hang out and get a Matachines hat? That's how good this identity. Yeah,
you should do
absolutely.
It. One, Tim Haggerty, one of the best broadcasters in the game. Two,
absolutely,
a ballpark that I've often thrown into the mix when people ask me the inevitable question of what is your favorite minor league ballpark.
Yeah,
it's hard to answer with the same thing every time because you can change your mind day to day just based on what you want to prioritize based on various features. But I've talked about it a lot on this podcast and in the world at large, but what they did with that ballpark in a relatively small footprint for a minor league team, the creative architecture, these buildings and these multi-level building in right field with all these different viewing areas. Mexico literally right behind the ballpark, Franklin Mountains on the other end of it, the city skyline down beyond right field on the first base side. You just feel like you're in El Paso. And as someone coming from the Northeast who hadn't been in that region very often, it just had such a distinct sense of place, such creative architecture, really great front office. Tim Haggerty, we love the guy. Et cetera, et cetera. Go to El Paso. I'll always recommend it.
This may be the year for that. And really, I mean, just tremendous work by El Paso. There's some really good stuff in these, which you can check out, of course, on the site. You can read Josh's story. Just awesome work. Okay, so those are the new Copa identities. And as we head into 2026, a whole bunch of teams getting set to take the field. AAA opening day coming up next week. Ben's also got a story up on the site about the winningest active managers in minor league baseball, which is something that has changed a ton in the last decade or so, because we've seen sort of a generational shift away from the veteran guys in minor league baseball, who are aging out, and this new wave of young coaches and managers who are coming in. So take us through this story, Ben.
Yeah, well, I'll start with kind of how I led this story off. But Tyler, have you ever heard of Stan Wasiak?
I don't think I have.
He is the quote-unquote king of the minors. Minor League Baseball's all-time winningest manager.
Man, I really should have heard of him.
He managed 18 teams over 37 consecutive seasons, 1950 through 1986, and he managed as a minor league manager in every single one, 1950 to 1986.
Wow.
So, he started his career when roughly around the time my parents were born, and meanwhile, I'm a kid by the time he wrapped it up. But anyway.
I was going to say, he was around until we were in the world.
Exactly. So anyway, he finished with an all-time record of 2,530 and 2,314.
Wow.
He remains the winningest manager of all time, and considering that he managed for 37 seasons, you'd think there ain't anyone close to our guy Stan the manager. Stan was I don't even know how to say
Yeah,
his
me neither.
Stan Wasiak, Wasiak.
Yeah,
But
Wasiak.
would we Wasiak, yeah.
Sure.
But would you believe Rick Sweet entering yet another season with the Nashville Sounds? Started his career in 1987 with a Bellingham Mariners team that featured 17-year-old Ken Griffey Jr. on the roster. Rick Sweet has 2,438 wins. He is 92 wins shy of the all-time winningest minor league manager. Is this the type of story that's going to, penetrate the larger sports consciousness? No. But I think for those of us who pay attention to minor league baseball, the fact that a dude is that close to being the winningest minor league manager of all time
That's pretty amazing.
should really start to pay attention to that.
Yeah.
92 wins shy. The chances he gets it this season, AAA now plays what, 150 games?
Yeah.
They'd have to go, 92 and
60 something.
60,
Yeah.
like 92 and 40. It'd have to
58.
be really good. It's unlikely he will get it this year. But he is currently in third place behind a guy named Bob Coleman, who managed even earlier. He had 24.96. Anyway, Rick Sweet will almost certainly pass Bob Coleman for number 2 and then be very close in striking distance of Stan Wasiak.
That is very cool.
Someone email us and say, how do you pronounce Stan Wasiak or Wasiak? We need to say the name properly of the all-time winningest minor league manager.
Yeah, if you're related to old Stan the manager, as Ben called him, please get in touch. I would assume it's Wasiak.
Wasiak, that sounds right.
Yeah, maybe it's Wasiak. I don't know. What do I know?
Yeah, and we also have in AAA in the International League, Pat Kelly entering with another season with the Louisville Bats. He has a losing record all time, which is what it is when you're a minor league manager. You don't have often too much control over, the product on the field, so to speak. And winning is not necessarily always a priority, but still, he has 2,092 wins and 2,251 losses. So he actually is the active loss leader right now. He has even more losses than Rick Sweet, a couple hundred less wins. But he's another guy who's been around for a long time in the Reds organization since 2000 and a member of the ultra rare 2000 win club, Pat Kelly, 2,092 wins. And then we have a guy who, well, it would take a big season in the Cal League for him to get to 2,000 this year, but John Shoemaker, who is entering his 50th consecutive season in the Los Angeles Dodgers organization, drafted as an infielder in 1977 and has been with the organization ever since. That includes many years as a manager. He has now managed 13 farm clubs in the Los Angeles Dodgers system, with the 13th being the inaugural season in the California League of the Ontario Tower Buzzers. So a brand new team, the Ontario California Tower Buzzers, have a ultra veteran at the helm, John Shoemaker, 1,915 career minor league wins as he enters his 50th consecutive season in the Dodgers organization. Rounding out the top 5, not too far behind Shoemaker, Dave Brundage with the Sacramento River Cats. He's been managing for 30 years now, and he's been with the River Cats for a long time. He has 1,908 wins, and a similar AAA guy, Marty Peavy with the Iowa Cubs, 1,466 wins, and he has been the manager of the Iowa Cubs since 2013. So that's the top 5. Read my article for a couple more on the list, and we have talked about Buddy Bailey on this podcast before, but also R.I.P. Buddy Bailey, who died in 2025. He managed between 1983 and 2024 in the minor leagues, and he finished with 2,417 wins, which is currently 4th all time. But of course, Rick Sweet is he's already behind Rick Sweet. Never mind. But 4th all time for Buddy Bailey.
Pretty awesome. Great stuff. And you can read that story from Ben as well. And finally, Ben, heading into 2026, you got, a piece that is right up my alley. The oldest minor league baseball team names. And this is with specific parameters, but I love this, obviously. Give us the overview.
Yeah, this is a list of, there are 120 teams in minor league baseball right now, as you probably know. I know you know, Tyler. 11 of those teams have been around. The team name has been around for 100 years or more. When I say the team name has been around, I mean the team right now entering the 2026 season has that name, and I'm measuring it from the first time a team in that same city, a professional baseball team in that same city, debuted the name. So, what are the oldest team names that are in use today based on when they first debuted for a professional baseball team in that city?
I mean, obviously,
And
Space Cowboys, Trash Pandas,
yeah,
the
I mean,
classics.
Trash Pandas started playing in Madison, Alabama. Not even Huntsville, in Madison in 1892. In the Cotton States League of 1892.
I'm trying to think. I have not looked at the story because I want to see how many of these I can guess.
Yeah, give me. So there's 11 of them that current minor league teams.
Okay. Here we go. The Rochester Red Wings.
Good guess, incorrect.
No way! Really?
The Rochester Red Wings are the longest continually operating franchise in all of minor league baseball,
But not one of the oldest names.
But the Red Wings name debuted in 1928.
Wow.
So they're an honorable mention on here, and
I was wrong.
12th on
First
the
one.
list in minor league baseball.
Wow.
So Rochester, like that team has operated consecutively since 1818.
Wow.
I'm scrolling through my own article. I provide you with so many. 1889.
Okay.
The longest run of any minor league team and sixth longest in North American professional sports. But Red Wings debuted in 1928.
Okay. The Indianapolis Indians, I know for sure, is one of them.
That is. And similarly, they are on the list, and they have the distinction of being the longest consecutive usage of any minor league team, because the Indianapolis Indians played their first season in 1902 as the Indianapolis Indians, and they've never been anything differently. So no minor league team. It's not the oldest team names in terms of its first appearance, but the Indianapolis Indians are on that list, and they do hold that significant longest consecutive operation with the same team name going back to 1902.
I'm like racking my brain, and there's only like one other one that stands out. I'm pretty sure the Toledo Mud Hens are on this list.
Correct.
Which is also a name that you would think of as being like sort of a new age name, but that name is really old.
No, that's one where there's like a little ambiguity when you're trying to pinpoint the exact start date, because it was an informal name. They played in the 19th century at Bayview Park that was near marshland. That marshland was home to birds that were informally called mud hens. The team began to be called informally the Toledo Mud Hens, and that sort of is now recognized as 1896 as when they sort of were that was their team name, 1896. And so it goes all the way back to 1896.
I feel like the majority of these have to be, well, the Asheville Tourists.
Asheville Tourists are on the list, and very similar to Toledo, it was an informal thing. There was a team called the Asheville Mountaineers.
Also a great name.
Yeah, in like 1912, 1913, 1914, around then. And they had a lot of players from out of town. Of course, now a minor league baseball team, you're not expecting it to have locals, but this is a different era of professional baseball. The Asheville Mountaineers of the 1910s had so many players who weren't from Asheville that they became informally called the Tourists because the players weren't from around here. And then that became the name in 1915.
That's also around the era in which a rumor took flight and spread throughout the country that Babe Ruth had died in Asheville. You can look up that story. It's really interesting.
Yeah, we had Ryan McGee on the podcast.
Yeah.
That story.
What a legend, Ryan McGee, by the way. All right, so I got 3. They're primarily East Coast teams, and a lot of them International League, I would imagine.
There is good. You already said Rochester and Indianapolis.
Yeah, Rochester, Indianapolis.
Is, good
Toledo.
International League.
Okay.
But it's not all East Coast. There's some Central and some, out there in the West too.
Okay, let's think a little bit more in the. The Salt Lake Bees. They could be
correct.
All right, I got 4.
Same year as the Asheville Tourists.
No way.
Tourists. The Salt Lake Bees entered the minor league landscape as members of the Pacific Coast League in 1915.
Wow.
And They were largely the Bees, in various iterations, all the way up through 1984 when they relocated to Calgary. Of course, they did have stints as the Salt Lake Giants, the Angels, the Gulls, but then Pacific Coast League Baseball returned to Salt Lake City in 1994. First, they were Bee adjacent with their names. They were the
Yeah,
Buzz through
the
2000,
Buzz.
the Stingers through 2005, and then 2006 they reverted back to the Bees, a name they first utilized in 1915.
Major League 3 back to the minors fans know. There's got to be the Chattanooga Lookouts.
Correct.
Okay.
Number 3 on the list, 1885. In a different iteration of the Southern League, but it was called the Southern League. The first usage of that name was 1885. Today's Lookouts began in 1976 when they returned to the Southern League after a 10-season absence of minor league baseball in Chattanooga. But Chattanooga's team has basically always been the Lookouts going back to 1885.
Birmingham Barons.
Another one. Yep. 1901.
I got over half. I feel good now.
Yeah, that's one where you could argue. They were the Coal Barons initially.
Okay.
In the 1880s, but the first slightly more abbreviated Barons team was 1901. So
okay,
it was back to 1901.
Man, that's 125 years. Goodness gracious. Should we send folks to the story for the rest of them?
Yeah, I guess we.
Okay.
Yeah, because you might be.
I got over half.
Right now.
Yeah, I feel all right.
Got over half.
When we stop recording, I'll see if I can guess the rest.
All right, because the first 2 have not been said yet. So
really,
let's end this segment on a cliffhanger. Yeah, we have one from 1877 and one that was a little difficult to discern the exact first usage, but I went with 1884.
Wow. I have to ask one more. No, I was gonna say the Louisville Bats, but I don't think that. Yeah, I don't think that one dates back quite that old. Like I'm thinking of, Louisville was a National League city to start. They weren't even a minor league city for a long time.
Yeah. Well, the number 1 team on this list did have 7 or 8 seasons in the 19th century as members of the National League.
Wow. Well, now I'm going to have to rack my brain and figure this out. And you all can do the same. And you can read Ben's story, of course, on the site as well.
Yeah. And subscribe to the Baseball Traveler newsletter. It's leading it. It's getting sent out as we speak. I think as I was talking about that article, it landed in inboxes across America.
Hey, that's cool.
It's the lead item in the latest edition of the Baseball Traveler newsletter.
That's fantastic. I'm going to go look at it. All right, Ben. We're going to make an awkward pivot in which now you are going to interview me about something.
Yeah, let's do a short interview with Tyler Maughan, co-host of the Show Before the Show podcast.
Yeah.
Recently returned from the World Baseball Classic. I guess you saw some of those games in the finals games as a fan, but before that, you were the lead play-by-play guy of Pool A. Saw some classic moments. I've heard your name a lot around the office in recent weeks. It was surreal, as I told you in a text, like turning on the TV and just hearing your voice. And we do this kind of thing every week, so I just think of you in this context. So it was just like, whoa, wow, that's Tyler. And he's like a great broadcaster. And I did not know that. But, when you deal with people in more informal context, you kind of forget. So it got me thinking, wow, Tyler's made it real high up in the echelon of WBC play-by-play calling. So I just want to ask you a few questions about that because I think other people might be interested. But first of all, before you started calling games, before you were even a professional broadcaster, you were a fan of the WBC. Is that correct? Like, what's your history just personally with it?
Yeah. Going back to the very first one, 2006, I made a trip with my college best friends, Greg Williams, Ryan Doyle, some of our other friends to the very first WBC. We caught our first WBC game in Anaheim at Angel Stadium in 06. Korea beat the U.S. in the second round. And then we went to the semis and the final at Petco Park in San Diego. And from that time forward, like I was interested in the event when MLB announced it in 2005. I've always just loved international sports. Obviously, I'm a sucker for baseball. And very obviously, I'm a sucker for international baseball, given my career field now. But after going to that one, we just sort of all said, like, like, oh, this needs to be our thing. Like you heard for a while, I don't know if these guys still exist, but you heard for a while about like, oh, this is the friend group that's been to every Super Bowl. They went to Super Bowl one. They've been to every one. You know, the Super Bowl's 60 years old now. And so I'm not sure if those guys are still plugging along doing it, but we made that agreement. And so we've been to every one as fans ever since 06, 09, 13, 17, 23, and 26. And, you know, the group has changed. We've had people come in and people drop out based on who can make it. But yeah, I've always been sort of a nerd. Like on my wall in front of me right now as I'm recording this, I have all of my pennants from every WBC going back to the first one. And, I'm writing a book on the history of it, due out next year through University of Nebraska Press. So, yeah, it's been a lifelong love of mine, nearly, I guess, half lifelong love of mine.
Yeah, 20 years of the WBC in your life, and then of course, from first going as a fan, you ended up pursuing a broadcasting career. Of course, stints with Altoona Curve and Myrtle Beach Pelicans, doing all sorts of other gigs along the way, Denver University. But at what point did you then enter as a professional broadcaster into not necessarily the WBC, but into the international baseball world as a professional broadcaster?
Yeah, so I worked for the Australian Baseball League in 2010, 2011 as the media director for the Sydney Blue Sox, and that was the inaugural season for that league. I always tell people I was working in minor league baseball. I was in Myrtle Beach. We had an Australian catcher named Matt Kennelly, who was one of my best friends on that team. And I asked Matty about like, hey man, I'm hearing these rumors about MLB launching a league over there. What do you know about that? So I got really interested in it. I figured out the MLB email address format, sent an email to the guy who was then in charge of MLB International, Paul Archie, who I have since done a whole bunch of phone interviews with for this book and has just been the nicest guy on earth. Paul passed my information along. I ended up getting hired to work in the ABL that first season and help launch that league. And most people think like, oh, so you did play-by-play down there. I actually didn't do any broadcast down there. And we didn't have like a standardized broadcasting setup across the ABL. So I didn't do any international broadcasts until 2015, and I was still working for the ABL remotely from over here. But WBSC, which is, as I always describe it to people, the FIFA of baseball, the international governing body for baseball, they were launching their new competition, Premier 12, which is sort of their version of the World Baseball Classic. It's their top level international tournament, and they needed broadcasters. And through a connection with the ABL, a buddy of mine, Andrew Reynolds, who I've since gotten to do a lot of international events with, he sent me an email and he was like, hey, we got contacted by ESPN Australia, New Zealand, actually, about trying to find broadcasters for this event. Would you be interested? That was in the fall of 2015. And I was like, heck yeah, I'd be interested. So I actually did my very first Arizona Fall League trip to cover the AFL that year for MILB.com. And I left from Phoenix and went to Taipei, did the first round for Premier 12 that year. And then the next year, I was just sitting around in my house one day and I was like, oh, man, I would love to do some more of that international stuff. So I just emailed the people at WBSC and was like, do you have any more in tournaments that you need broadcasters for? And I ended up doing the Women's Baseball World Cup like that month, and then the U23 Baseball World Cup later on that year. And and it's kind of taken off from then. And then my first World Baseball Classic event was 2022, thanks to Jim Small, the head of the Classic, and Daryl Martins, who was on the business ops side for that. I actually met with Jim in New York just about doing more international prospect coverage for baseball pipeline, for MLB Pipeline, and for, you know, all these good stories of guys who are coming out of non-traditional places. Had a great meeting with Jim, and when I left, I finally got the guts to be like, hey, I'm seeing online some conversation about the WBC coming back next year and potential qualifiers. You know what the broadcast situation is for that? And he was like, yeah, I'll send your name along. And I ended up doing those and, you know, weaseled my way into doing the main event in 2023. Qualifiers were in Germany and Panama in 22. And then I had the first round in Taichung in Taiwan in 2023. And, I've just continued being a baseball Forrest Gump and just like showing up and hoping that they will continue to give me work so I can yell about things in foreign lands and baseball games. And so it's over a decade now, which is like insane to me.
Yeah, and this has been, as far as I can tell, the most high profile. It seems like each WBC is a little more high profile than the last, and you're in this, high profile lead play-by-play role for Pool A. I know you've talked about this. You've been talking about your experience there recently. What was your favorite moment from this WBC? Is it the obvious walk-off call? Is there anything else that,
from a work context, it's the walk-off call for sure. Daryl Hernandez, the walk-off home run for Puerto Rico. That was a career highlight. That's as cool of a moment as I've ever had in a broadcast. And, we were lucky in 2023 to have a really amazing group as well. Me and Ryan Roland Smith, my color analyst, everybody finished 2-2 in Taiwan, and, that Chinese Taipei team, kind of the crowd and team love affair was so amazing to watch there. And here in Puerto Rico, it was the same thing. And to be able to call that walk-off homer in that moment, the way it happened with like a guy who wouldn't have even been on that team, arguably, if, Francisco Lindor and Javier Baez and Carlos Correa had been able to join that team. Daryl Hernandez gets to have that moment. That was my favorite work moment. But I will say, being able to just be in the stands and experience Venezuela winning that championship and the reaction of those fans, that is a baseball moment that I will carry with me for the rest of my life. We had a group of fans behind us on Tuesday night who were just amazing. They were so much fun. And when they got that final out, when Daniel Palencia got the strikeout to end that game, those guys burst into tears. And, they're standing there hugging each other and crying and, belting out their national anthem. And for everything that Venezuela has gone through, not only this year, but in recent years and decades, that's a country that has not really had a ton of sports success, which is almost kind of baffling. They won the bronze medal in the U23 World Cup a few years ago, and that was one of their most successful endeavors on the international stage in any sport. They just have not had, they've never qualified for the World Cup in soccer. Don't have a ton of successful Olympic history, but that is a baseball crazy country. If you want to read a really amazing piece on this, Luis Paez Pumar at Defector wrote an incredible story. He was born and partially raised in Venezuela, moved to the United States as a kid. So he gets to live this thing, as sort of a foot in two worlds. And his piece is incredible on what this means for Venezuela, for Venezuelan Americans, for Venezuelans back home. So go read that. It's titled Viva Venezuela, a Champion at Last. But just being able to experience that with those fans and see the emotion, American fans would have thought, hey, this is cool and it's a fun thing to celebrate, but it kind of would have been forgotten by today. In Venezuela, yesterday was a national day of celebration. They declared it a national holiday. They held like a parade for when the trophy arrived in Caracas. You see the videos of people in public plazas, watching by the thousands. And it was so gratifying to watch how much that meant to people. And I think even more gratifying to be somebody who, is sort of the WBC hipster and was like, I knew in 2006 this was going to be big. And now to see how cool it is for people is really amazing. And that's a thing I'll never forget. That was the most meaningful sporting event that I've ever gotten to witness in person. And for what it's done to lift spirits there and for the Venezuelan American community and for the refugee community here, that was an incredible night. And I hope the party never stops in Venezuela, especially because they get a title to defend now next time out.
Disney Plus wants to know, are you ready? For Marvel Studios' Thunderbolts, The New Avengers, now streaming on Disney Plus.
Let's do this.
One of the best Marvel movies of all time is now streaming on Disney Plus.
Hey, you weren't listening to me.
I said Thunderbolts, The New Avengers is now streaming on Disney Plus.
Meet the New Avengers.
That's cool name.
Marvel Studios' Thunderbolts, The New Avengers, rated PG-13, now streaming on, you guessed it, Disney Plus.
Well, there you have it. This has been an interview with World Baseball Classic broadcaster Tyler Maun. We're going to now throw it back to Show Before the Show podcast co-host Tyler Maun.
Ben, thanks. Good stuff. We're going to move along on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. Sam Dykstra is back to join us. He's got a very good guy for Name That Dude. And we'll wrap it up coming up next. Saying goodbye on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast. Before we get out of here, time for a reunited edition of Name That Dude, the game show craze in which one of us picks a baseball dude from years past, and the other two have to guess who that dude was and still is in most cases. Sam Dykstra has the dude this week. Benjamin Hill and I shall be guessing the dude. Sam, the floor is yours, and the dudes.
And the dude, the singular dude. All right, my dude was drafted by the New York Mets in the 44th round. That's really fun. Of the 1991 amateur draft from Lewis and Clark Community College in Godfrey, Illinois. So after he signed that year, 1992, he split the year between Kingsport in the Appalachian League and the Gulf Coast League, obviously, with the Mets, his age 19 season. 1993 with the Pittsfield Mets. There we go. Love a good Pittsfield Mets reference. 15 starts. I kind of gave it away there
pitcher.
early, but that's okay. All right, there's a hint. I think it's still going to be a little bit before you get this, but we'll see. So 1993 with the Pittsfield Mets. 1994 with the St. Lucie Mets and the Binghamton Mets. Split his year between those. Threw 193 and a third innings at 21 years old in 1994. What a time. What a time.
Nothing that happens with top pitching prospects anymore.
No, sir. 1995, get this, threw 128 innings between Binghamton and Norfolk, then a Mets affiliate, and then made his major league debut through 93 innings with the Mets. So 128 plus 93. Eclipsed 200 innings in his age 22 season. 1996 with the Mets up completely. 1997, it looks like there were some rehab starts there, but back with the Mets. Working as a starter. 1998, did not pitch. I assume there's some injury stuff going on there. 1999, back with the Mets, but it's starting to pitch in relief now. 1999 goes to the Oakland Athletics. He's there with the A's from 99, 2000, 2001. And then 2002 joins the Cardinals. He's with the Cardinals all the way through to 2008. Gets in 1 year with the Rays in 2009. Pitches in Louisville, very briefly, 7 appearances with Louisville in the Red System in 2010. Gets in 53 appearances with the Mets in 2011, and then 50 appearances with the Angels in 2012. Retires after that, after his age 39 season. So 16 years in the bigs for this dude, 10 years with minor league appearances, all levels, 20 seasons. Any guesses?
He went Mets, A's, Cardinals. He was on the Moneyball A's. Mets, A's, Cardinals. Rays.
What year?
That was 01 was the Moneyball season, right?
2002 was the Moneyball season.
02 was the Moneyball season.
So he just missed the Moneyball season. He was traded to the Cardinals for 2002.
He was on the Cardinals World Series team in 06.
He's a 2-time All-Star.
Huh.
And
He had 300 career saves.
Oh, that should give it away.
Should.
Who was the closer on that Cardinals team? They're like furious Cardinals fans right now. I keep thinking of Keith Folk as being just like one of those random.
Wait, is it
dudes. It's obviously not
Isringhausen?
Keith Folk.
It is
Jason
Isringhausen.
Isringhausen. Good pull, Ben.
Took a while. It was the
Isringhausen.
saves. It was like, wait, somebody had a lot of saves started with the Mets. It finally came together.
Yeah, Jason Isringhausen.
That's funny
is
because
the
I
dude this week.
like don't even remember him as much as a Met as his time with the A's and the Cardinals.
Well, I do because he, growing up, prospects weren't as hyped as they were today necessarily in a kind of smaller sports media ecosystem. But there was that like trio of Mets pitchers that were like on the cover of Sports Illustrated. It was like Isringhausen and Paul Wilson. There was like
Paul Wilson and Bill Pulsarfire.
Bill Pulsarfire, yeah.
Bill Pulsarfire.
Yeah, they were like a super hot trio that got a lot of hype in the early 90s. And I remember that from my childhood.
Yeah, and I mentioned a few missed years in there. This is from his Wikipedia page, so take it for what it's worth. But I didn't get all the details of this into this. This may have given it away. A steady progression of serious injuries, including tuberculosis, a broken wrist sustained while punching a dugout trash can, and
I
three
remember that
major
one.
operations on his pitching arm, derailed his progression into the major league rotation. So then, when he was finally healthy in 1999, he was moved to the bullpen, and Bobby Valentine was reluctant to use him in relief, saying that it would be akin to, quote, using an Indy car as a taxi.
It's kind of crazy. Jason Isringhausen, as Sam noted, finished with exactly 300 saves, but all but 21 of those were between 2000 and 2007. He had, with the exception of one season, which was 2003, in which he had 22 saves and 40 appearances, he had at least 32 saves in every season from 2000 through 2007. And the majority, not the majority, but the biggest number of those was in 2004 when the Cardinals, of course, also made the World Series. 47 saves that year. Man, Ben, great work. Jason Isringhausen.
Yeah.
Great pull.
And a couple other things to note here. I said he was traded to the Cardinals. He wasn't traded to the Cardinals. He signed with the Cardinals. So it was that classic A's example of we're going to use this guy as much as we can.
Yeah.
Then he's going to go to free agency. And we're going to lose him. And the reason I selected Jason Isringhausen is he's actually the manager for the Cardinals in today's spring breakout game. And a coach in the dugout is Adam Wainwright. So imagine you're a Cardinals pitcher going in this game and you have Isringhausen one end of the dugout and Adam Wainwright on the other. That's a lot of really good resources for young Cards arms.
Yeah, he had all the dugout walls padded. Learn from my mistakes, kids.
Do not touch.
Stay away from any garbage cans that are around here. Man, that is good stuff. Well, Jason Isringhausen, good luck to you and your Cardinals prospects and to all the rest in Spring Breakout 2026. And for Sam Dykstra and Benjamin Hill, my name is Tyler Maughan. Thanks for catching us on this week's episode of The Show Before the Show. We'll talk to you next week.